So Caitlin Clark is in Miami. Yes, Caitlin Clark is in Miami right now with Aliyah Boston. And what does this mean? Probably nothing. She is probably just going to watch her friends play basketball. It is hilarious. It is hilarious, and who knows? Who knows?
Caitlin Clark just showed up in Miami with Aliyah Boston, and the timing, absolutely perfect for everyone except the WNBA. Because while the League and Players Association are locked in CBA negotiations that could shut down the entire 2026 season, the biggest star in women's basketball just appeared in the same city where Unrivaled is hosting their next slate of games this Friday. Coincidence? Maybe. Strategic chess move that could shift millions of dollars in those negotiations? Also maybe.
Friday is going to be the most watched day of Unrivaled because, yes, I get it, Paige isn't playing, but Aliyah Boston's playing. You've got Lexi Hall. Angel Reese is playing, and Caitlin Clark might be there. Caitlin Clark might be there. There is a possibility that Caitlin Clark will go and watch Unrivaled. I don't think she's going to pull a Sabrina and be on commentary or anything. But there's a possibility that Caitlin Clark decides that she wants to go and watch an Unrivaled.
Here's what makes Friday's Unrivaled games suddenly the most important broadcast in the league's short history. You've got Aliyah Boston playing, Angel Reese is back after her injury, Lexi Hull is competing, and now there's a real possibility that Caitlin Clark shows up courtside to watch, not to play, just to watch. And that simple act of attendance could be worth more to the players' leverage in CBA negotiations than any statement from the Players Association. Let's talk about what's actually at stake here. Unrivaled's ratings have been, to put it bluntly, horrific. They launched with massive expectations, backed by serious money, featuring some of the biggest names in women's basketball. And they've struggled to crack 6 figures in viewership for most broadcasts. The league needed proof of concept. They needed to show the WNBA that players have options, that there's real competition for talent, that the league can't just lowball them in negotiations because there's nowhere else to go.
Pretty much in Indiana the entire time. And Unrivaled, obviously, when it comes to their ratings, they haven't been good. But like, I'm sorry, Caitlin Clark, if it's known that Caitlin Clark is going to be there, she doesn't even have to play. If it becomes a thing where Caitlin Clark is going to be there and Angel Reese is playing as well, at the end of the day, we're now at the stage where this is going to be the most viewed 5v5, or this is going to be the most viewed day of Unrivaled ever.
But here's the problem with that leverage play. It only works if Unrivaled actually poses a threat. And right now, with their current numbers, they don't. The WNBA can look at those ratings and say, sure, go play 3-on-3 basketball in Miami for a few months. Our worst regular season game still doubles your best broadcast. That's not leverage. That's a failed bluff. Except Caitlin Clark changes everything. She's not just another star. She's the difference between 400,000 viewers and 2.3 million viewers. She's the reason ESPN moved games to primetime. She's why the Indiana Fever went from league afterthought to must-watch television. And she's done all of this in one season while getting absolutely brutalized on the court by veterans who resented her success.
Should make it a huge thing, being like the return, make it a big thing being like to watch this week. Make it an event that Angel Reese is back. We're going to have Caitlin Clark in attendance. This is like, and then suddenly if Unrivaled randomly picks up, let's just say Unrivaled, with all of that being said, they were able to get 400,000 viewers, which is a record for Unrivaled. Nothing crazy, like 20% of what Caitlin will pull in an NBA game, half of what Angel Reese will pull in a big WNBA game. But like, even if you just go and do that, and you have any sort of capability of making this a big deal, and you can get those numbers from just Caitlin being.
Now watch how this plays out strategically. If Caitlin shows up Friday, Unrivaled will promote it relentlessly. They'll tease her attendance, they'll get cameras on her reactions, they'll make it an event, and if they can pull even 400,000 viewers for that broadcast, which would be a record for them, but still just 20% of what Caitlyn pulls in a regular WNBA game. Suddenly the conversation in those CBA negotiations shifts, because it's no longer about what Unrivaled is right now. It's about what Unrivaled could become if they actually land Caitlyn Clark. And that's a conversation the WNBA absolutely does not want to have during negotiations. The league's entire bargaining position relies on the assumption that they're the only game in town, that players need them more than they need the players. One courtside appearance from Caitlyn Clark in Miami destroys that assumption.
I mean this as well. I think the league didn't respond to anything because they wanted to wait till they saw Unrivaled's numbers. And Unrivaled's numbers have been horrific. The ratings have been horrific. And like, I think right now, when it comes down to it, like everyone's talking about the players' leverage. Certain players have leverage. Angel Reese going back to Unrivaled helps the player. Is going to help the players get more money. It is. Whether or not that's an amount of money that they're happy with is like, we're yet to know. That being said, it will absolutely get them more money. And Caitlyn Clark just being there, you could probably add 1% to the CBA from just Caitlyn Clark physically being at Unrivaled, watching a game, being like, look, there's still potential. There's still potential that she plays in at some stage.
Let's be clear about something important here. Caitlyn Clark is not in the Players Association. She's one of the few WNBA stars who opted out. So technically, she has no dog in this fight. She could cross the picket line if there's a lockout and face zero consequences from the PA. But that's not who she is. Everything we know about how she's handled her rookie season, how she's dealt with the physical play, how she's navigated the politics of being the league's biggest draw while veterans treated her like an outsider, suggests she's not going to scab. But here's what she can do without crossing any lines. She can show up to an Unrivaled game. She can be seen with Angel Reese, someone she's supposedly rivals with, but who's actually become something close to a friend through their shared experience of carrying the league's marketing on their backs. She can demonstrate that there's real interest in alternative leagues, that the players have options, that the WNBA's monopoly on elite women's basketball is not as secure as the league thinks.
She will, but I think they're like, hypothetically, if there's no WNBA season, and it turns out that like at the end of the day, she might play in it. Again, I put that at a really low percentage. We're just spitballing based on a picture we're in fucking Miami. At the end of the day, this could be nothing. She might not even show up in Unrivaled. She might just be meeting up with her friends in Miami. That being said, though, the timing of this, I mean, I get it, Caitlyn's had some prior obligations, but she hasn't had that many. And if you guys agree that, you know, we just want to see Caitlyn Clark play basketball again, subscribe. We are still fighting. We've lost 4 subscribers. We are fighting to stay above 57 point. We're fighting to get back over 57.2k. We're fighting and we're losing it badly. We got back to 57.18 and then we lost 8 subscribers in the last hour. So yeah, if we could, that'd be greatly appreciated. So yeah, what do you...
And this is where it gets really interesting from a business perspective. Unrivaled should absolutely pay Caitlyn Clark just to attend. Not to play, not to commentate, like Sabrina Ionescu did. Just to sit courtside and watch basketball with her friends. Because her presence alone is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in increased viewership, which translates to better advertising rates, which proves to investors that the model works if you have the right stars. Think about the marketing angle here. Unrivaled could promote this as the return, even though Caitlyn's never played for them. They could build an entire weekend around Angel Reese's comeback from injury and Caitlyn Clark's first appearance at an Unrivaled event. They could create the kind of buzz that their league has desperately needed since launch. And all it costs them is whatever appearance fee Caitlyn's team negotiates, which would be a bargain compared to the value she brings. But the real value isn't even in the immediate ratings bump. It's in the psychological impact on those CBA negotiations, because suddenly the WNBA has to consider the possibility, however remote, that Unrivaled could actually become a viable alternative if they get Caitlyn. And that possibility, even if it's only 10 or 15% likely, is worth millions of dollars in additional salary and benefits for the players in the final CBA agreement.
As with the Breanna Stewart, I think if nothing else, the players are at least, I'm not going to say they're showing that they have leverage, but they're now in a position where it's like they're doing things that absolutely could be something or could be nothing. And there are chess moves that a Caitlin Clark can make, because we all noticed that like Caitlin Clark is more relevant to this than anyone. Like the reason why the players have leverage is Caitlin. Ironically, Caitlin getting injured is one of the other reasons why the league is hesitant to give up money. But at the end of the day, Caitlin pulling off a chess move like going to Unrivaled could genuinely be a swinging point in these CBA negotiations, because we want to say, oh, you know, she's not in the PA. No, Caitlin Clark is the most important player in the WNBA by bar none. Like, I don't, and by the way, people, I don't think Caitlin Clark is going to cross the picket line. I don't think she's going to cross the picket line. I think there's a near 0% chance of that. I wouldn't be that surprised. Again, I think there is a 20% chance Caitlin Clark doesn't play another professional basketball game in her career. Like, if there's no WNBA, if there's no WNBA anymore, I think there's a small chance, but a chance nonetheless, that she's effectively a Team USA player and plays in exhibitions, or de facto retires by 30. Like, she could be done by 30. But at the end of the day, this is kind of one of those big scenarios where...
Here's what makes this situation so fascinating from a strategic standpoint. The WNBA waited to respond to player demands specifically because they wanted to see Unrivaled's numbers first. They wanted proof that this alternative league was either a real threat or just expensive noise. And the numbers came back showing it was mostly noise. Viewership has been disappointing. The 3-on-3 format hasn't caught on with casual fans. The league has failed to create the kind of appointment viewing that the WNBA generates even in its worst markets. So the league's negotiating position got stronger. They could tell players, look, we see your alternative. It's not working. You need us more than we need you. Take our offer or risk losing a season for nothing. That's brutal negotiating. But it's effective when you have the leverage. Except Caitlin Clark's presence in Miami throws all of that calculation into chaos. Because now the league has to game out scenarios where Unrivaled actually lands her, either for next season or for some future season, if negotiations go badly. And those scenarios are terrifying for the WNBA. Imagine Unrivaled announces they're going to a 5-on-5 format, and they've signed Caitlin Clark to a $5 million contract to play a 20-game season in major markets. Suddenly, every negotiation with every player includes the implicit threat that they could follow Caitlin to a league that pays better and demands less. Now, is that scenario likely? Probably not. Caitlin seems genuinely committed to the WNBA. She's talked about wanting to build something sustainable in Indiana. She's invested in the traditional structure of the league, but the possibility exists. And in negotiations, possibility is almost as valuable as reality. Think about what Unrivaled could offer her if they really wanted to make a splash. They could take their league to Iowa City for a weekend. They could play games in Indianapolis. They could build their entire schedule around maximizing Caitlin's regional appeal, while giving her a lighter workload than the WNBA's grueling schedule. They could offer her equity in the league, making her not just a player, but an owner. They could give her creative control over marketing and presentation. And here's the thing that should genuinely worry the WNBA. Caitlin Clark doesn't need basketball financially. She's making more from endorsements than she'd ever make from salary in any women's basketball league. So the decision about where to play isn't really about money for her. It's about quality of life, about respect, about being valued. And after a rookie season where she got hammered physically, criticized constantly, and watched the league fail to protect her while she carried their ratings, she might be more open to alternatives than the WNBA thinks. Now let's talk about Angel Reese's return, because that's the other major storyline for Friday's games. Angel has been out with a wrist injury that required surgery. She's been rehabbing in Miami, which is why she's playing in Unrivaled in the first place. And her comeback is legitimately important for the league's credibility. They need to show that their players can handle the physical demands of 3-on-3 basketball without getting injured more than they would in the WNBA. But Angel's return also creates this perfect narrative opportunity if Caitlin shows up. You've got the two biggest stars from the 2024 WNBA season, the two players who drove more conversation and controversy than everyone else combined, appearing together at an alternative league event while the WNBA is locked in contentious negotiations. That's not just a story, that's a statement. And it's a statement that helps the players even if Caitlin never plays a minute for Unrivaled, because it demonstrates solidarity. It shows that the next generation of stars, the players who actually drive ratings and revenue, are willing to explore alternatives if the WNBA doesn't treat them fairly. That's powerful leverage, even if it's mostly symbolic. Here's what I think happens next. Caitlin probably does show up Friday. She'll watch the games. She'll hang out with Aliyah and Angel. She'll be seen and photographed. Unrivaled will get their best ratings of the season, maybe hitting that 400,000 viewer mark if they promote it correctly. And suddenly, in those CBA negotiations, the WNBA has to put a few more $1 million on the table just to eliminate the risk that this becomes a pattern. The players won't get everything they want. They never do in negotiations. But Caitlyn's presence in Miami, even if she never intended it as a negotiating tactic, will be worth real money in that final agreement. And that's the power of being the most important player in your league. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to threaten anything. You just have to show up in the right place at the right time, and suddenly, everyone's calculations change. So was this trip strategic? Was it planned to maximize leverage during negotiations? Or is Caitlyn just visiting friends in Miami, and we're all reading too much into it? Honestly, it doesn't matter. The effect is the same either way. The WNBA now has to consider possibilities they could have ignored a week ago. Unrivaled now has proof of concept for what their league could become with the right star, and the players have a little more leverage in negotiations that will determine the future of women's professional basketball. What do you think Caitlyn should do? Should she make a statement by playing for Unrivaled if the WNBA season gets canceled? Should she stay loyal to the league that made her a star even if they're lowballing the players? Or should she just focus on her endorsements and let everyone else fight it out? Drop your take in the comments, because this situation is about to get a lot more complicated before it gets resolved.